You know what's great about summertime? Road trips. But you know what's not great about road trips? That's right, the shoulder belt from the seatbelt. If you're a bigger girl like me, you may know what I'm talking about. When I put on that seatbelt, that shoulder strap tends to come across my torso and hits right at my neck, and it's not comfortable. In fact, it's so uncomfortable that I've even taken to riding in cars with my hand on the seatbelt to kind of position it down a little bit more. So that got me thinking, what if I could make something to fix that? And that's exactly what we're going to do in today's video. Hey friends, welcome back to my sewing room. My name is Becca and I am so excited to show you this project that I came up with a couple of months ago and have been using every time I've been in my car ever since, and it is a game changer. This little doohickey allows me to put it on the seat belt and just kind of reposition the shoulder strap just a little bit so that it's not cutting across my throat or my collarbone. It's actually cutting across my shoulder and my torso, which is probably where the seatbelt is supposed to lay. This is a quick and easy sew, and you're gonna find that it's actually really easy to make. You're gonna want to make them for all the seatbelts and all the cars that you have, and maybe your friends have and your family has. Really easy project. So without any further ado, let's just get into the tutorial. This is what I came up with to help make the seatbelt in my car a little bit more comfortable. It's just 2 pieces of fabric, 2 pieces of batting, and 3 cam snaps. Now, I will let you know that the closure for this does not need to be cam snaps. You could, of course, just do buttons, or you could do maybe some Velcro. Any of that will work. You just want something that's going to hold this entire flap closed. So let me show you how I make one of these step by step. It's a quick sew. It'll probably take you 5 minutes to put it together. And you might find that you love this so much that you want them on all of the seat belts in your car. To start off, we need some fabric that we can cut down into 2 pieces, each measuring 8 inches by 5 inches. So I've spritzed this with a little bit of Best Press, and I'm just going to give it a nice press to get all those wrinkles out and add a little bit of body. This step is probably not required, but I'm so used to starching all of my fabric, if I can, that it just becomes kind of second nature for me. Once I have my fabric cut, then I'm going to cut 2 pieces of batting that each measure 8 inches by 5 inches. Now, before I put this together, let's talk about what's in the middle here. I do have 2 layers of batting, and I'm going to show you how I put that in here, but I wanted to point out that you don't need to use batting. You can use whatever you want to put in the middle here. You could use some SF101, which is just a lightweight woven fusible interfacing that will add some body to this. You could use some Pellon Decor Bond. I believe it's like an 808. That'll make it really, really nice and stiff. Or you could just use fusible fleece. It doesn't really matter. The whole idea is that we're just putting something in the middle of these 2 pieces of fabric so that it's got a bit of body and it's not just a flimsy piece of fabric. Anything that you have in your sewing room that is scrap interfacing or batting would be just fine. For me, I'm using 2 pieces of low loft batting because that's what I have the most scraps of. Once they're cut, we're going to assemble our sandwich, but it's not a quilt sandwich like you normally have. We want to put on the wrong side of each of these pieces of fabric your batting or your fusible interfacing, whatever it is you're using. We're going to do that for both pieces. And then we're going to place the fabrics right sides together like this. Then we'll take this over to the sewing machine and sew around all 4 sides with about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. It doesn't need to be perfect. If it's a little bit bigger, that's fine too. Just make sure that when you start and stop your sewing that you backstitch, and you're going to want to leave a gap in one of the ends. I like to do it along the long edge so that you can reach your hand down in there and turn it right side out. My next step is going to be to clip the corners right next to where the point of my seams come in, but not to go through it. I don't want to chop off the corner. This is just going to help reduce some of the bulk that are in these four corners so I get a nicer point when I turn it inside out. Then we're going to turn it inside out. So I'm going to reach my hand in between the two layers of fabric, just like this, and I'm going to pull it through that hole. And I'll use my fingers to kind of push out the corners and push out the seams. If you have a tool like this one from Modern American Vintage, you can pop it in there to really push out those corners even more, get a little bit more definition going on. Just be careful not to push too hard. You don't want it to go through your seam. And you're just going to kind of pat it to lay it flat. And this little area where it's open, you're going to put your finger down in that hole to kind of get the fabrics to go towards the inside. And you're going to line up those two pieces of fabric so that they match nicely. And then I like to grab some clips. And we're just going to put a clip here, put a clip here. This is holding those folds together for me so that I don't have to have a third set of hands to do it. I'm good to go. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to edge stitch around all four sides and we're almost done. If you don't know what I mean by edge stitch, that means that I'm sewing as close to the edge of the fabric as I can. Usually that's about 1/8 of an inch or so. The most important thing here is that you're making sure that you're going through the fabric that you tucked down inside that flap. So as long as you are hitting the fabric and the batting that you folded in, doesn't matter how far away you are from the edge. Just make sure you get that. Once we've sewn this together, our next step is to install our closure. I'm going to use cam snaps, but you could certainly use Velcro as I mentioned before. The most important part of this step is just figuring out how to fold it. So you'll notice I have this folded so that the flaps kind of overlap on each other, but this center section, what it's folding down to, has to be wide enough to accommodate your seat belt, which is about 2 inches. So you'll just want to fold this in such a way that you have that overlap, but when it's folded down, it measures, I would say, about 2.5 inches to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. Now, if you're going to install Velcro, all you're going to do is just put a piece here on the piece that's up and put a piece on the underside of the top, and it'll be Velcroed shut. For cam snaps, it's a different process. Let me show you. So pay no attention to this being a different fabric than what you just saw in the previous clip. The truth is I sewed up a second one of these and set it aside, and it's been a couple of weeks since I've worked on this video, and I honestly don't know what I did with this. So I just whipped up another one, and I'm going to show you how to install cam snaps. So for cam snaps, what you need are your snaps, your snap setter, a sharp tool that'll allow you to poke holes in your fabric, and this is what I do. So just like I mentioned before, I tend to fold this so that I know it's going to be wide enough to sit around the perimeter of my seatbelt. And then I'm going to take a sharp object, make sure this is the right side. Nope, it's not. When you buy a cam snap set, you do get one of those little sharp pointy things that you can use for this, but I've long since misplaced mine, and so I just use the sharp end of my stiletto. And what I'm going to do is push through with that sharp end so that it's going through, goodness, this is tough. It's going through these two layers, and I want to make sure that hole is big enough that I'm going to be able to see it when I pull it back through. And then while I'm keeping that shut, I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. Stab it through the first 2 layers. I'm not going through the back. I'm just going through these top 2 layers. And then If I want to, for good measure, I could put one right here in the middle. I actually don't think that the third one is needed, but you do you. Now that I've got those holes, we're going to grab our cam snaps. The most difficult part is just choosing the color that you want. For each one of these sets, we need 2 of the pieces that have that little pointy sharp piece. So I'm going to grab 2 for the left and 2 for the right. Then for each of those sets, we're going to need a male and a female prong. And you can kind of see what the difference looks like here. One looks like it's going to hold water. The other one looks like a male prong. You get the point. And now I'm going to install them. I'm going to start with the one here first. So I want to take my cam snap with the smooth side and the sharp pointy end and put it through just that first piece of fabric and batting. The sharp end should come through that hole that we pierced. And then I'm going to take one of these guys. It doesn't really matter which one I use. In this case, I have the male. I'm going to grab my tool, and the black end that has a divot in it is going to go underneath the head of that snap, and the white piece is going to line up here. Once all of that's in position, you're just going to squeeze. And when I do that, it's actually adhering everything together because it's flattening down that sharp point from this piece around the inside of its partner. So if I take the other 2 pieces and repeat the same process here, then we should have a snap that should snap into itself. The only thing that I want to make sure of is when I'm putting this together that the head is not on top, because then there's going to be nothing to receive that snap. I want to put it on the back side, poke it through the hole, grab the other piece to the set, put it on there, and with the same motion we did before, we'll click it into place. Then we're going to test out that snap to make sure everything lined up correctly. And I do like to give it a few snaps and unsnaps, because if it's going to come apart, I would rather it come apart here than after I've gifted it to someone else. We're going to repeat that same process to put one here, and if we want to put one in the middle, we can do that there too. Once this is all done, then we're going to go out to the car and we're going to wrap it around both of the straps that come into the buckle for our seat belt, and it should lay on there quite nicely, and you should be able to slide it left and right as needed. The goal here is that with this wrapping around both of those strands of your belt, then it's going to help reposition the shoulder strap so that it's not going across your neck, and it's actually where it needs to be should you get into an accident. So what do you think? Game changer, right? I love how this literally takes the seatbelt off of my throat and repositions it somewhere else. I'd love to know if you guys are making this and what you thought of the overall product. Leave me a note in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.